All right. Great day to connect with all the guys. Starts with gratitude, and just thankfulness for all the guys that helped this year. From our scout team to the guys that played for us on Sundays to the guys who went to IR, at different points in the season, but was able to connect with all of them and just express my appreciation and, just kind of hit some brief points on, asking them what's next, and obviously there's a lot of those conversations that involve free agency and different things like that. But I think it's just important to make sure that it's recognized, how hard this job is for these guys, to really show up, 7 days a week. And it's 6 months, and to do it all together, and it's a gift, but there's challenges that come with it. So it was a great morning of doing that, and I really appreciate the guys that were here to do it with us.
Dave, what have you learned about yourself as a leader and as a teacher throughout this entire process of this first year of being a head coach?
Yeah, just openness to learn from people who have done it before, who have been a head coach, and then also just coordinators and position coaches who have been around football for a long time, and to take in all the information possible, and then to try to make the best decisions weekly, really daily, that I feel are best for our team, from a football standpoint. And so hopefully just learning that has helped me, and making sure that I continue to have that openness to collect all the information and make those decisions collectively.
Dave, there's a lot of talk in there about stability and continuity, not going through coaching search, that kind of stuff, again, this offseason. What's the biggest difference that you can have going into next year without having to build and start new?
Just continued development. We're a developmentally minded organization and developmentally minded coaching staff. So looking at all of our guys that we currently have and trying to find what's the next step for these players, to help them progress, and to have a starting point in the offseason of familiarity with terms, different things like that certainly helps. 2 years of building a new playbook, changing logos, and doing all that. Now, we have the book, and then we became some other things in the process too, which I'm excited to really look at and take that. Did that answer it good enough for you, Darren?
What are those other things that you became that you're excited about?
From a football standpoint, just having Bryce for an extended period of time and learning what that pass game looks like with Bryce, seeing the things that he throws well, and seeing, watching Xavier, Jalen, watching Thielen come back to us and be healthy, and Jatavian, and then Tommy, just the run styles for Chuba, and then here comes Miles back, for the last game, and but just learning about our guys, learning about the offensive line, what run plays they like called, where, which direction, how, those things. We just accumulate a lot of information from an offensive standpoint, and defensively, of course, same thing, coverage-wise, like what can we lean on, from that standpoint, front-wise, like what gives us our best opportunity here, to play our defenses. And so that's what the next couple of days are about. And then, of course, when we come back, it'll be the continued self-scout process to look into those things.
With the performance of the defense, do you anticipate making any changes at the coordinator position?
Not right now. Ajero will be back with us as our defensive coordinator. We have a lot of things to evaluate, over the next couple of days, and then, certainly, into the off season, to reflect on our schemes, to reflect on our personnel, to reflect on the guys we have here going forward. And so, there's a lot of really important conversations, about all those factors, that'll be great to have.
To clarify, you said not right now, but will Ajero definitely be back?
Ajero will be our defensive coordinator next year.
Just, you inherited that defensive staff, and I think you talked at the time about the benefit of that. Would you consider making changes below Ajero, I guess is what I'm asking?
Those are all conversations that he and I have to have. And again, this, day after the game, we just have to process all of it, from a schematic standpoint and all of it, and try to make sure we put the Panthers in the best possible situation.
Dave, you mentioned the decisions you made. You made some big ones early on in your coaching tenure. Obviously, sitting Bryce. Caught some, there's some outside criticism of decisions like that. Kind of reflecting on that and those decisions that you make, is it particularly gratifying that when you see the growth and development based on some of the decisions that you have made?
My focus was to try to help the Panthers that week based on the opponent we're playing, and the guys that we're playing with. And really, for me, the focus was just to be there in that week, as I reflect, I think what I'm proud of is just the consistency of decisions, the consistency of growth, and progress that we saw in a bunch of different areas. And I think that's a tribute to the whole staff. I think that's a tribute to the players buying in, to a little bit of a different culture, but to really avail themselves to learning, to growing, and so I look at that and I'm proud of the progress we've made.
Coach, when you talk about this year with Bryce, the highs and lows, the good and bad, what is this journey, what does it say about him as just a young man?
Volumes about his consistency, his character, his maturity, the way that he just looked at it exactly how I'd hope all of the guys would look at it weekly. How can I get better? How can I grow? How can I take the lessons of this week and then bring it over to the next week? And that's what I saw every week. This an area here or there, applying things, trying things, pushing things, continuing to pursue excellence, and that's probably, the greatest thing I can say about Bryce is the consistency of attacking the work, and going after it. And as he grew, as his confidence grew, and you can see his personality, the fadeaway touchdown throw yesterday, like those things kind of come alive as your command and confidence of what we're doing really starts to, settle in, really starts to crystallize for him. And that's what I saw from him.
Dave, as a guy who's worked in pretty much every level of the coaching staff, what is the importance of exit interviews with players as they go off either maybe in free agency or prepare for future years with the team? What do you want to get across? What have you told your assistant coaches you want to get across? What are you and Dan getting across?
These aren't very long meetings, so these meetings are first and foremost thank you. It's gratitude. It's another connection, another touch. It's like the players that have come and gone over this past year, trying to make sure that Dan and myself had a personal connection with this player. They may come back at some point when they come into our organization, that we have a conversation. So I think for relationship, it's really important to know where somebody's at and to know who you're talking to, and from a personal standpoint, like, some guys have kids, some don't, so who is this person I'm talking to? The offseason will present its own, new, things that way too. But so I think it's just having that touch point. And then there's some obvious ones. There's free agency. So guys who are free agents, there's clearly like you want to be here, and making sure we're on the same page that way, or to try to get a feel for some of those things as well. Because it's like sometimes you can wonder all you want. Sometimes you just got to ask, or they'll ask me, do you want me here, coach? And there's truthful conversation and truthful responses that go into those things.
Building on Bryce's confidence that you mentioned a minute ago.
Yeah.
When he threw the pass to Trumbull and he turned the signal touchdown before the ball even gets to Trumbull, we never could have seen that coming, I don't think, that personality outside of him. Did you see that coming, and what did you think?
He's got fire, he's got swag, and he's got a whole lot of that, and to his game. And I think that he's handling it the right way, though. He's just letting it come to him, and with humility, with hard work. That's exactly how you'd want to do it. But what I don't want these guys to ever do is I don't want them to play smaller than they are. I hope that we can create a place where they can emote, they can show us their personality. And I think that's when you look at the great teams in the NBA, in the NFL, the guys who are really, I watched the Lions-Vikings game last night, and you see the Lions, making their plays, and you see the confidence that they play with, and you see, Jahmyr Gibbs 4 touchdowns. You see his personality come alive after runs or in the end zone and stuff like that. And so it's just, we want to try to create a foundation where our guys feel like they own it, so that we can see who they are.
Dave, on that, Bryce pointed out to us a minute ago that realizing the impact of that, with his personality and that energy, was beneficial to the whole team and the whole locker room. did you see, do you think your positivity and Andy's played a role in him growing in that role, in that way?
I honestly can say that Bryce is his own guy, and that's one of the things that I love about him is he doesn't let external factors really impact him. You know, he just stays consistent on his plan and his growth, and I think that's a trait of really good players is that they're able to continue to have their standard of performance regardless of what the external environment is. You know, whether it's OT to win the game, you know, in a 2-minute drive or whatever it is, and there could be other, you know, circumstances going around you from a player standpoint or coaching standpoint, but to find that consistency, I think that's from him. That's from his belief in who he is, his belief in the possibilities of where he can go, you know, that, you know, we're able to bring our own personalities in there, and hopefully that does affect the room to a certain point. But I think that Bryce has an idea of who he is and where he wants to go, and that's what's been so great to see the end of the year come out the way it has.
Dave,
you said that.
you might have addressed this a little bit yesterday after the game, but wasn't there. Has Bryce shown you enough that he is the franchise quarterback here?
Absolutely. Bryce is going to be our starter going forward, you know, and our conversations are you know, deeper, and we had a quick, you know, meeting today, but, you know, we'll connect again at some point, but, you know, he earned that. He won that job and took it and ran with it.
Dave, you've said that you like the quarterback room all year. Is
Yeah.
it fair to say that you want Andy Dalton back in 2025?
I would love to. There's conversations that need to happen on both sides.
You talked about Bryce's growth, but it seems as if you guys have grown together as a head coach and quarterback, as a play caller and quarterback, and maybe Sunday was kind of like a precursor of things to come. In what ways do you feel like you guys have grown and your relationship has grown since the benching?
I love that story. So I do feel a sense of rookie head coach. I'm not a rookie anymore, by the way. Okay, so I had my last one in the book, so I'm a year 2 coach. But I think that the natural progression of myself as the head coach, a second-year play caller, learning, growing, taking information in, being humble about the stuff like, I didn't like that call, you know, and being able to take that information and hopefully talking about, you know, impact, hopefully that allows Bryce to see, like, look, we're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for just growth, and let's go for it together. And let's find the solutions together. You know, we want to be a solution-oriented team. And so I've loved that we've kind of taken those steps together as an offense, as quarterback, as play caller, head coach, and all that. And for sure, you know, some of the other guys on our staff as well who are, you know, doing things for the first time. So it's a cool story, you know, and it is kind of the nature of what we're doing. And I'm excited for the progress and for where we're heading next.
Dave,
Well,
there's
that
been
was
a lot
a
of
gutsy move for you
conversations.
to be a rookie head coach coming in here, knowing just kind of the history and the turnover and everything like that, and David Tepper's involvement, what was given up for Bryce, that was a really gutsy move to make so early in the season. Can you just kind of talk us through that decision process? Did you ever doubted yourself during the process, who you leaned on?
Honestly, I don't really want to go back and open that back up. But what I will say is this, which I said all along, is at the time I was making the best decision for the Panthers in my mind. And that's what I believed. And I had to take that weekly approach of this is what I think is best for us right now. And of course, you know, there was a lot of conversations and a lot of thought that went into that because that's not something that I take lightly, you know, but you know, that was the approach, and hopefully that'll always be the approach for as long as I'm here, is talking about what is the best decision for the Panthers right now, and taking in all that information.
Dave, there was a lot of external dialogue about the perception about your relationship with Bryce. You talked about his maturity and the way he's able to handle things. How much did having a person working with you like that help you kind of tune out the noise in the process of building that relationship even further after you guys hit kind of a fork in the road?
Yeah, it was great, you know, to understand that first and foremost, you know, they've hired us to help the Panthers win. So let's work on our jobs. Let's do our jobs. You know, and we both had that sense that like show up, work hard, love and treat people well, and that makes sense, for us, So, having that commonality to I'm going to show up here, I'm going to be consistent and do my job is really important.
Dave, could you just expand on the decision and your faith in bringing Pajero back?
Yeah, I've played against this defense. I've played against it in Seattle with the Rams for a bunch of years. I played against it twice last year. I know what this defense will look like, and I'm committed to that. Ajero's committed to that. And so it's about developing the players that we've brought in. It's about evaluating our schemes. So we have to be able to look at our schemes and be really critical of all those things as well. And it's about seeing who's out there to challenge our roster, who can help us to get this defense to the place where we know we can. And so, but again, in this part of our season, it starts with the guys who have been playing for us week in and week out. Let's really dive into these guys first. Let's honor the work that they've done, evaluate that part, go into the scheme, and then go into free agency and the draft and see what we can do to help our
How much
defense.
of that confidence is built on the fact that Derrick Brown's coming back?
I think the question was about Ajero, and for Derrick to be back, yes, awesome. Like player, like a huge get for us, but I think it's more, the big picture of thinking about my vision of doing this together with E is how I want to do it, how I want to build it, and so we have, we have some good time over the next couple of days to look at all of it.
Dave,
Was
you'll
he
never have
put
your
in a-
first NFL team again as a head coach? What did this group mean to you, especially when it comes to what you want to bring up here?
Finish, right? We're just looking to capture the things that are us, the moments, right? The games where we were able to finish with the ball, running the ball into the end zone in the Cardinals game, running the ball in the end zone this past week, this is what it looks like. No turnovers, from an offensive standpoint. The defense in the games where we took the ball away, to see the impact of Michael Jackson's interception, and when we score a touchdown, and all of a sudden it's like, that could have been the one that decided it, but like trying to capture those things and from a stylistic standpoint, the effort, the enthusiasm, I thought we grew in celebrating each other. You can kind of see, the guys taking more and more group celebrations. You can feel that energy happening. Further down the season, I saw that grow. The toughness was always there. This is a group that played so hard all year. And then we grew in our situational football. In different areas as well. And the finish is what I was most proud of. Is that while we didn't finish the games to win, we finished the right way with great effort, with doing our jobs for the most part. There were plays that got away from us on both sides, but it was the intent that was there, and it was the guys showing up, trusting the process, listening to their coaches, taking good coaching and then applying it throughout the week. So I really thought we captured some important parts to our culture.
Dave, any off-season surgeries that you know about with guys at this point?
All the medical questions you'll probably have to get from somebody else.
Coach, entering the playoffs, as a fan, who's your pick to win the Super Bowl?
No comment.
I was gonna say, I don't think there's gonna be any good. There's no way you can.
Dave, with that said though, how much will you and Brad and maybe even E watch those playoffs to try to add maybe to your playbook for next year? Maybe take some concepts or really focus on what really works from a play calling standpoint.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've done for 10 years, which Will Harriger will be spearheading this project, is collecting all the situational things that come up during playoffs. And so we just kind of evaluate it from an offensive standpoint, and defensively, like, first of all, the coaches, we're all going to watch all those games and take in the information. But those are great things to show, like, particularly when you're just like, you're building your systems, like, hey, look at this situation here. There's 45 seconds and 2 timeouts right here. We got plenty of time, but we got to make some yards here. Like we had that situation come up yesterday. But we'll find those things and we'll be able to apply them to that. And then specifically from a scheme standpoint, like there's going to be a lot of good football played over the next couple of weeks. So we'll be tuned into it.
Or a couple more.
Dave is now a second-year head coach.
Right?
Yeah.
Was
Undefeated, by the way. Undefeated in 2025.
2025. Was the job everything you thought it would be? I know the injuries and there were some surprise things that happened. Was it everything you expected as a
And more, certainly what it called upon myself and our staff to work through the challenges of this season, to bring out the best and the worst in us, to find solutions together. That was a great challenge for us, and I think that we'll all be better for it. All of the injuries and the roster situations and all those things, and every Monday, Tuesday, like, what are we working with here? Who's up, who's down? Got to wait and see on these couple, So I think just the challenges, I think the best way I put it was talking to Lizzie. I was like, I feel so full and so empty at the same time. It's just like, I feel full because it's calling on a lot of things I haven't had to use before, and having to lean on a lot of people for that information to make good decisions. So full from just like all the being connected to all the different parts of the team, the phases of the offense, defense, special teams, but also the trainers, the strength staff, Tracy, Chef Tracy in the middle room, just connected to everyone, travel, all those things, and so it's forced me to operate in ways that I hadn't had to before. So I feel very alive and stimulated in that regard. And then on the flip side of it, I'm just like completely gassed by, Sunday night, I'm kind of punchy after the games, and then, hey, here you go. Here's a call sheet, and go call, about 65 plays again. So it's been all of that, and it's a great adventure to be on, and a bunch of guys that I really enjoy working with.
What did you learn about David Tepper that you didn't know?
Hold on 1 second.
Yep.
David, on the field, you have one, Jack? All right, that's it. Last three.
When you got, this time last year, you really did know David Tepper. You probably did some research, you heard impatience, all those things. What have you learned about him since you've been on the inside that you didn't know?
Committed to the process, and asks great questions about our processes to decisions, and creates great dialogue for Dan, for Brant, and I, to go through things. And it's been a real gift, to just like, have to go through the mental thought process to come to the decisions that we made from a personnel standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, all those things, to facilitate a couple of guys, a first-time GM, a first-time head coach, and Brant, who comes into this thing, and we're the three of us working together, but so I think it's just like committed to having great processes in place, and that everything is open for evaluation, and that's what I've learned from him to be able to apply to our coaching as well, is to go, okay, guys, this is a great plan. Like, how was this process as compared to last week? Or how did this process lead to a 14-point game versus a 44-point game? And how do we come to these decisions? So that's been great for me just as a leader.
Dave, JC said that right after the game, he and Bryce were already talking about next year. There's enthusiasm from the guys about, continuing to build. Like, as a guy that's trying to build this culture, what does that mean?
It's huge, right? It's going to come from these players. As coaches, we're going to put the game plans together, hopefully of stuff that our players can do well, but that doesn't come alive unless the players are committed to each other, unless the players are committed to that ownership and holding each other accountable out there. And it starts in practice, talking to each other, and demanding excellence on a daily basis. If you can demand excellence of each other throughout the week and make the week hard, we show up on Sunday. Sunday's a celebration, and to be able to get to that point where all those guys are doing that, and JC and Bryce are two great starting points right there for a team that has a belief that we can play with anybody. And I'm so proud of that part, that we come out of this season with the guys knowing we can play with anyone. We proved that. If we do things right and we play together, we can play with anybody. And so I love that those guys are already on that track, thinking about 2025.
Dave, 4 overtime games in your first year as a head coach, that's got to be a fairly unique stat. Is there anything you take away from that, or is it just merely coincidence for you?
Great reps, a lot of really hard fought, battling ourselves back into games, keeping us alive with this player, that, just the heart and finish of this team. We're comfortable winning the game as long as we got time and downs. And if it takes 5 quarters, then okay, great. We'll show up for that, and in classic fashion, I'm sitting there and I'm like, Here we go. Okay, let's do it one more time. But I loved seeing that last drive come together the way it did with the balance of the run game and a couple of passes and then punching it in right there. It was just like I couldn't have envisioned it any other way but to finish it that way, running the ball to win. And so I think that's great reps for us, great reps for our team as we build our concepts. Guys, these are the plays we use when we're in a 2-minute situation. These are the plays we use when we're ahead. These are the plays we use when we go to overtime, and that's all going to be beneficial for us in the future.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you.